Hi, everybody. Hi, permission granted friends. You are not seeing double if you think you might be, but this is my sister. This is Kendra. She is in Charlotte. So close, but still too far.
Yeah,
Still too far. How was your day?
it was good.
It was.
Yeah. I feel like that happens a lot lately. Like, I'm like, wait, let me think about it.
How did it really go? But
Okay. Yesterday, the 2 days before, Monday and Tuesday, the kids were in the actual school building, and those days are really great for us here. That's great for them too, but it's great because like work feels really productive and it's a quiet house. And like today was more of like it just gets Wednesday through Friday is funkier with kids
yeah.
school. Now they're like from home or from, different places and schedule looks different. But it was so good. Yeah, it was a good day. Productive.
Good. Good. It's always interesting, right? Like trying to, balance all the things. I tried really hard to get a shower today. I basically worked in my pajamas until about 45 minutes ago, maybe. And so I couldn't get hot water. So I get to, hi, mom's here. I get to tell Matwan that something's going on.
Darn
I was
it.
like, screaming from the shower to have Sarah turn off the dishwasher because I was like, this doesn't usually happen. So, it was like a half shower. So,
Yeah,
I mean, I'm still thankful. It'll work.
it'll work, but that's
Yeah.
a bummer. That would bum me out. I don't look forward to a lukewarm shower.
No, I just did my best, but I'm hoping that it's just like a pilot light or something. Those kinds of things. Those kinds of things. So we were kind of talking about like sister stories because I thought that maybe somebody would get a kick out of sister stories, but we're both like kind of tired moms and we couldn't really think of anything. I'm
No,
sure mom would have some really great stories.
I don't know if we want her to share.
Yeah, you're right. That might not be good. That might not be good. But for the most part, we got along growing up. Like I can just remember a few times that we would get annoyed with each other.
Yeah, but we're just 2 years apart. You're 2 years
Mm-hmm.
older, and I think we were different enough in personality and interest that probably helped.
Yes. I think it did. And you were sharing. Tell the story you were sharing about when we would have guests over.
Oh, it just made me think of because right now I'm in my middle daughter's bedroom, which is where we've put a desk for this pandemic. Home is also school and work and life and everything. And it just made me think my middle daughter, Carson, is very organized and very structured, and her room's always really clean. And I thought, oh, that's funny. Growing up, that's how I was. And each of us girls had our own bedroom, but I would keep mine the cleanest and organized. And whenever we would have guests, then that meant that my room was the one that had to be given up for the guests. And I had to go. It's like I got punished for keeping my room clean and organized. They had to go like camp out on your floor or something.
Yes.
And Bethany's room was decorated
Okay.
with like adult decorations, like collectibles and artwork.
Yes.
Things.
I mean, do you remember the year? I think Tiffany and I were talking about this recently, but there was one year, I think Sarah Caldwell helped me actually, but I got rolls of wrapping paper from the dollar store and like the tacky stuff, like the white tacky stuff.
Yeah.
And I like wrapped my room.
I do kind of remember that.
Yeah. And then I also, one time I had like string, like lights on the floor and then like the cotton stuff on top of them.
It looked like snow.
It looked
That
like
was magical.
it was so cool. Elle would probably really dig that kind of stuff. Like
Yeah.
Elle, yeah, because her room is messier. Like my room is
It's a
messy.
lot like you. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm not going to turn the computer or anything like that because that would be bad right now. But yeah, thanks anyways for being on here at the end of a full day. Yeah, Tiffany's on here too. She said, yeah, you wrapped your entire room. But I also remember that it fell a couple times and I was so upset and frustrated, but I think I sort of figured it out. I mean, I don't think I ever tried that again, actually.
No, it was like a one and done.
It was a one and
I kind of remember it. And I don't remember much, so it must have been notable.
Yeah, that happens sometimes. We'll be like, Kendra, don't you remember? And you're like, not really. It's kind of a running family joke, isn't
I
it?
don't know what that's about, but yes, it's true. I don't remember much.
Oh gosh, but thank you for coming on at the end of a full day. And I just wanted to share you with my audience because you're a wealth of wisdom and information. And you so graciously and generously wrote a pre-order bonus for me to give away with the pre-orders. And I mean, you're like, is this okay? I'm like, are you kidding? Is this okay? It's so great, guys. It's like over 20 pages long. And she was like, should we cut some? And I was like, no, we're not cutting one word.
I hope it's not too long.
No, I don't think it's too long. I think that it's a document that people can kind of just take their time going through because it's such valuable, good stuff. So one of the reasons that I wanted you to write this is because this is kind of like the stuff that you dig, like you love this kind of stuff. Can you just kind of share like what it is you do for your work and like the kind of things you love to read and the podcast that you love to listen to, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, it's really kind of neat because so right now my role is a well-being manager, and I've been doing that for the last 2 years. Prior to that, I was our people development and culture manager at Torrent Consulting. So for the last 4 years, I've gotten to really try to dig into what are my strengths. And I've had the privilege of working with leaders who are interested in that. And it being a startup, it's allowed me the space to kind of mold and shift my role to meet the needs of the company, but also be more in line with my strengths. I always, when I try to explain this, I try to use the camera here, I always think of like the the law firm legal scales that I felt like for most of my professional career, I'd been living out of I had been able to live out of my strengths, but it was more so like if the scales were tipped, 30% were in my strengths, but like the other 70% were event planning and being behind a computer all day and not the relationship building stuff that I loved. And in this shift to Torrent Consulting 4 years ago, my desire, in even outside of Torrent, of just knowing that I was making a career shift, was to tip the scales. I can get back to the review, tip the scales in my favor, knowing that no job will be perfect. No role will be 100% everything that I love all the time, but I could tip the scales in favor of the things that I'm passionate about and that I'm naturally good at. That is something that I was really eager and seeking. And so that's a little bit of my own professional journey, but some of the stuff that I love to read and think about. So I was a psychology major in college. I went on to get my master's in educational ministries, but applying it to student affairs, college student development. And one of my last psychology classes was in organizational psychology and reading about the workplace. And this would have been in 2001, 2002. And
just a couple years ago, really.
Years ago, it really feels like that. But it was one of those things where it was like the last class, but it was like, dang it, if I would have taken that earlier, I think I would have dug into that a little bit more. So it always left me with this feeling like work should be meaningful and can be meaningful. And especially if we can align our strengths and our passions with our work, then that's really where you get the most out of people. But also that the workplace doesn't have to be the clock in, clock out drudge, the thing that you have to do. I think the workplace can be the place that's really life-giving and affirming and fans the flames of your passions and what's possible instead of what a lot of people have often known it to be. So I love to listen to Brene Brown. It's kind of, I'm a little bit of a fangirl there.
We're texting back and forth. Did you listen to this one? Did you listen?
I don't jump on too many bandwagons, but I'm on hers. Like everything she says and does, I'm like, yeah, it's so good. Adam Grant, I love his stuff. I like reading about how we can humanize our work. I love reading about how we handle relationships in a healthy way, how we can do the hard but the right thing by having hard conversations and not avoiding them. So anything, if it pertains to relationship building and meaningful work, I'm digging it.
I love that. I love that. So yeah, we tend to have some fun conversations because I didn't major in psychology, but it's always been like a favorite thing for me. I love learning about people and about how they work and why they work, and yeah, it's just been one of my favorite things to talk about. And we remember that one time we went to a conference and neither one of us were counselors. Do you remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember when we did that?
Is that in Nashville?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was so funny. I love it.
Yeah.
Before I forget, guys, thanks for everybody that's on here. We've got Lori and Becky and Tiffany and Sarah and Michelle. I'm so glad to see you guys. Just make sure you give StreamYard permission so that I can see your name. Like if you happen to leave a comment and we want to say, hey, thanks for joining us. Just make sure that you give StreamYard permission so that we can see your fantastic name pop up here. So next, I asked you to do a pre-order bonus for Permission Granted, Embrace Who You Are, Cultivate Courage, and Impact Your World. And I did that because sometimes, sometimes we get stuck and sometimes we're unsure of what our passion, purpose, and possibilities are. And I just knew that I needed someone to just kind of speak into that space for those people who are stuck, for those people who are really kind of unsure, what they're about. Because I've been there and it's just it's not a fun place to be. And so I knew that I was hoping that you would say yes to writing a little something. And of course, you blew it out of the water. So can you tell us just like a little bit, like a high level view of what you put together for the pre-order bonus?
Yeah. So maybe a little bit of background would help. I think so in my role as well-being manager, a lot of what I do is create the infrastructure for people to engage well-being and help empower them to own their well-being. And we define well-being as becoming the best version of yourself. And we've done a lot of work around that with helping our people understand that this is an ongoing journey, that there's no one arrival point, that the best version of yourself changes with the season. And a lot of that was, born out of my own journey of, loving a career and then becoming a mother and figuring out how to balance the two, and then finding, ways to invest deeply into all of those elements that I wanted to invest into. And so I just began to realize like there's no one arrival point. You don't find your purpose or your passion and then just settle in for the next 50 years. Or even if you do, there's iteration within that. And then we also help our people know, like, it starts with you. Well-being is becoming the best version of yourself, but it doesn't end there. You do it so that you can show up well for others.
Yes, I love that.
So that's how we define well-being, and that's all what my work is all about. One of the really cool things that I get to do as a part of my work is drawn largely from Simon Sinek's work with Start With Why, and I help people find and discover their personal why, which is that motivating purpose, cause, or belief that drives them to do what they do.
You know how to spell his last name?
Yeah, Sinek.
Sinek, Simon.
Yeah. And I grabbed a bunch of books, and his was the one I did not bring up. But Start With Why, and then there's actually a workbook called Find Your Why that will walk you through it. But so what's interesting is I get to listen to people's stories all day long.
That would be so fun.
That was one of the things that, as I was figuring out I was in college student affairs for 12, 13 years. And when that was coming to an end for me, I really didn't know what else I would do. And there was one day when I was listening to StoryCorps. It's like an app, and it's a way that you can capture people's stories and actually store them in the Library of Congress. And I remember thinking, I would love to do that. I'd love to just sit and listen to people's stories, which was, again, as I talk about in this PDF, it's a data point. It was like, oh, I would love to do that. I'm collecting information about myself, and then now I get to do it. So, which is really cool. But as I listen to people's stories, we pull out the themes, and then we help identify, what is that thing that drives you? What can you contribute to the lives of others? And then what impact do you hope to have on them? And so I'm doing all of this work, and I've done this work on myself, and then I'm doing this work with other people. And when you asked me to put together this PDF, it was like, oh, this would actually help me to synthesize everything, like put it all in one place. And it's not everything that I have, but it's a lot of the things. So one thing that I knew for sure when you asked me to put this together is I do believe people need help figuring this out. And I do believe it's helpful to have somebody outside of yourself sometimes that's helping you, because they can ask you the questions that get you thinking a little bit more.
Yeah.
And I am a associate certified coach through the International Coach Federation. And so I highly recommend coaching, like the value that a coach brings as a listening ear and an outside perspective, because even your spouse or a loved one, if they're listening and trying to help you through the process of discovering, they still might have some skin in the game, like if you're like, I have this big audacious dream or this thing that I've always wanted, a spouse or a partner might be like, I don't know. Are you sure about that?
You want to do what?
Let's tamp that down a little bit,
You want to self-publish a book?
Yeah, right. You know a little bit about that, I'm sure. So it's really helpful to have somebody else. I think that's really important. But this guide that I put together, I think is, next to a human being helping you through this, is kind of meant to be that in paper form. And what I've included in here are just 3 kind of thought patterns that I encourage people to adopt, and then practices that they can try out, and then reflection questions to think about and journal and write about after you've worked on that thought pattern and tried out some of those practices. And all of this is couched in the idea that, like I mentioned earlier, that this is in large part a lifelong journey. And that's not to say that, like, I know our mom is on here and she knew 40 some years ago that she wanted to be a registered nurse, and that has continued for her. I'm not suggesting that there's going to be a career change every 5 or 10 years, although there
right.
could. But I think that there's a lot of freedom in not feeling like this is locked in at any one point or needed to be decided 20 years ago or else I'm screwed. Like, I think the reality is there's the ongoing form of the verb discovering. Like, it's not discover your passion like a one and done past tense. It's discovering your passion and your purpose. You are always doing this, and you're giving yourself room to change and look different in different seasons of life. And so this PDF is not 5 easy steps, but it's a guide for the journey and the encouragement that it is a journey. And I think half the battle is embracing that it is an ongoing journey and not something that I should have discovered 20 years ago.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I mean, for me too, I think that that's been really freeing, because one thing I have said is that I feel like I was kind of like a late bloomer. Like I tend to struggle with making decisions and, kind of, well, I guess for one, I don't like to be put in a box. Like, I like to say, this is what I am, because then that means that's how people see me. That's what they think I am. Like, I don't know. It's bizarre. My brain is strange, but I feel like it has been really freeing to kind of, okay, just try out some different things. And I remember, like, when this journey kind of started, this journey of writing, and I remember saying to Kathy when I interviewed with her on the phone for the internship, and I said, like, I kind of feel like I've been mediocre at everything, Kathy, and maybe, I don't know, maybe this is the thing that I'm going to be able to do well. And she was kind of like, oh my gosh, Bethany, like, That's a crazy thing to say. I mean, I didn't know her very well, but I'm sure that's what she was thinking. But it was me just being like super honest because that's how I felt. And I was like, it was at that point, Kendra, that I was like, I had gotten to that point where, I was tired of feeling that way. I didn't want to feel that way anymore. And so I had to kind of like kick myself in the butt and like, okay, what's next? What is it that you love? What is it that kind of lights you on fire when something happens? And it's definitely been writing. Like it's definitely, my creative outlet. And something I realized just today, are you ready for this? I had an idea for a piece. And I jotted a note to myself before I fell asleep on my phone. And this morning I was like, oh, I can't, like, I woke up thinking about this piece that I wanted to write. And I was like, hey, pay attention to this because I am busting my butt just doing so many things, making graphics, making this post, talking to the printer, talking to the designer, like all of these things. And I'm still like, oh, I want to write this piece. Like, I still want to write, like in the midst of all of the stuff that's happening, like this, I still want to do it.
Yeah.
And for me, like that is like something to pay attention to. Like, okay, maybe you're where you're supposed to be, Bethany. Like maybe you're where you're supposed to be. And that feels like really, really good compared to where 4 years ago I was like, meh, I've just kind of been mediocre at everything, Kathy. So I just love that. I love how you help people discover that there's freedom in discovering and that we don't have to always do what we think we have to do and we don't always have to do what people think we should or have to do. And you talk about that a little bit in the download, the freebie. So one of the things that you talk about in the freebie is trying something new. So like, what are you hoping people discover? When you're asking them to try something new, what is it that you're wanting them to try, to do, to see?
It's a good question. I want them to push the boundaries of how they've always thought of themselves. And I want them I talk a bit in the PDF about your data collecting. I think a lot of this as like an anthropologist, but you're studying your own life, which is hard to do because you're in your own skin and you're living it. But like an anthropologist, observes and immerses themselves in the culture and they learn. And I think if we can do that within and for our own lives, we will learn so much. And you never stop learning. Like even this quarter in our company, I've led us through with some colleagues, led us through a focus on financial well-being. And I've discovered some things about my emotions and approach to finances that these were aha moments for me, like, oh gosh, that's why I think like that, or man, I forgot how that impacts that. And, we may not have aha moments like that every day, but I've always said I want to be 80 and still learning and growing. Now, then there are moments when I am learning and growing and it's so uncomfortable that I'm like, I don't know if I really want that. Yeah, I do. I want to try a new food and discover at 80 years old that like, never had that before. I like that. I'll do that again sometime. Like I want people to push the boundaries of who they think they are or who they've been told that they are and really truly discover who they are for themselves. And like I said, trying one new thing, that was something that I did, was try one new thing a month for a year, was about data collection. Like even you to like have this thing that you've got to write down on a scrap of paper and you feel the urge to come back to. That's another thing that I talk about in the PDF is doing a body scan. When do you feel that in your body and what does it feel like? And pay attention to that. Like that's, the body feeling of I don't want to do this. You know what it feels like when you find anything else that sounds fun, except for the task that you don't want to do. Like, what does it feel like when you love something?
I love that.
Yeah. What does that feel like in your body? I remember, and I can't remember if I included this in the PDF or not, but I remember one time when my husband and I, when Scott and I were new to a community and felt the twinges of pain, of loneliness, of not being connected. And, we were pastors' kids, and growing up, we were always known in the church community.
Yeah.
And so at college and after, to be new in a church community and not be known was really foreign and uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And there were so many Sundays where we'd leave and, you just left. You didn't say goodbye to anyone or give any hugs. You just left. Nobody knew you. And there was this one Sunday where I was connecting. I was having conversations, and we got back into the car, and I just broke into, which is a Heine daughter trait of like, I don't know how to describe this.
Yes.
What I imagine is Lenny from Of Mice and Men when the rabbits or the puppies are just so cute. Like it's a good feeling, but you feel it so physically.
Yes.
And so I got in the car, and it's I'm clapping and I'm giddy, and without even, when you lose yourself in a moment, and I look over and Scott's just looking at me like, what is happening? Well, to me, it was a realization like, man, I need this. I crave it. I want it. It's good. And, now again, you just collect data along the way. I didn't know it then. I didn't know it in 2003. But now I've done Strengths Finder, and that's something else I encourage in the PDF is do a reputable personality test or assessment. Now, 6 of my top 10 strengths are in the relationship building domain. Like,
wow.
No wonder. And there's others: executing, strategic, and influencing. Those are the other domains. But the relationship building one is all about building relationships, the kind of the invisible glue that holds teams together.
Yeah.
Things like culture, the things I have to invest in at Torrent. And now I know, that's why that resonated so deeply with me. Or, there's an Imagine Dragons song where the refrain says, it's about a romantic relationship, but the refrain says, "Thank you for taking a chance on me. I know it isn't easy, but I hope to be worth it." And I hear that and I think of colleagues. Like that's just where my brain goes. And it's exciting to me. It's like, yes, this is not easy, but it's so worth it to do the hard work, to have the hard conversation, to give the feedback, to accept somebody who's different from you. Yes. So pay attention to those things. That's important. And it doesn't matter if that's weird or different from the next person. The fact that it's weird or different from the next person is a good indication that it's something for you. If the other person's just like, I don't get it. Like, cool, that's not your thing.
Right.
But it's mine. And I'm so excited and passionate about it. Then pursue that. Pay attention to that.
So good. And I love that idea that I kind of say, I'm known to say around the house that everybody's weird in their own way.
Yeah.
And I feel like, you just have to embrace that. Like, that's kind of like your superpower when there's something that you kind of you can zone in on and that you love. That's what people come to you, Kendra, to be like, okay, can you help me process this? Can you help me understand? And it's because it's like your superpower. It's your thing. And that's what makes us, whatever makes us strange and unique is it's on purpose. It's not an accident. I don't think that we're all a little bit different, because it would be incredibly boring if we were all the same.
Yes, it would. And I think I kind of strayed from your question, but with the trying new things, the reason why I think that's helpful in that is we, both from within ourselves and outside of ourselves, we begin to believe stories, or we do what we think we're supposed to be doing. So I worked with college students, like I said, for 12, 13 years, first year college students in particular. And the amount of people who go to college doing what they're told to do by their parents is astounding.
Wow.
And it's often with this, like, you go there, and study this, I'll pay your bills. And I now as a parent, I'm like, it would be hard to put all that money into something and wonder what kind of job my kid's going to get. But so, I think we start believing and following these scripts that have been written for us. instead of doing the discovery ourselves. And so that's where sometimes trying the one new thing or just trying new things in general is helpful.
What were some of the things that you tried? I'm trying to remember.
Let me flip over my paper so I can recall myself. I did whitewater rafting with friends, which was really fun.
Would you do it again?
I would. It was controlled. It was at the Whitewater Rafting Center.
Yeah.
So it was fun. I just kind of laughed because there was some serious stuff that happened in that Whitewater Rafting Center. Like we found out the weekend after, like health risk stuff.
Gotcha.
That we were just like, oh gosh, glad we went when we did. So, you know, like even that though, like we kind of traded texts, like, even though now we know it was risky, like it was still so worth it. It was so fun. I went to
a couple years ago that you did this.
Yeah. This is 4 years ago. Yeah.
Really?
It was 2016 into 2017.
Dang. Okay.
Yeah. That's when I discovered my personal why. That was something new that I did. That was when I went to counseling for the first time. You know, it was actually a conversation with our dad where I was encouraging him, like, Dad, I think you should go to counseling. And he was like, well, have you ever gone, Kendra? No, but it's really good. So I was like, you know, yeah, okay, I should do this. Because I do believe in it. And I do think it's helpful. And so why not go myself? So I went to counseling for a couple times. I recorded a podcast, one single episode that I've never listened to or even gotten off the USB.
Maybe you should put that, you know, write that down for 2021 or something.
Maybe I'll get that if I can locate it.
Yeah.
And some of the things I set out to do, I failed at, like writing once a week. You know, I didn't always make it happen, but I tried. I made homemade bruschetta for the first time.
Yum.
Which was yummy. But also, again, and this was one of the things I put in the PDF as well, I enjoyed the end product. The food was good. But I like stepped back from that and I was like, I don't love this. I don't love the slicing and dicing and the prep. I don't find any joy in it. And I think it was a little bit of a line in the sand for me of like, I truly make food because it is what we need as sustenance. But other than that, as much as I love to watch a chef show or hear somebody talk about a recipe, you know, like it sounds glamorous, I don't enjoy it. And so I think even be able to say that, like, it's okay, I don't enjoy this. It's not my thing. So yeah, those were some of the types of things that I tried. Again, not that I think those things are going to necessarily point us towards our passions or our purpose, but I think any one of those things begin to give us data points from which we can draw from. And keep building and keep discovering.
Yeah, I love the idea that you can, I mean, it's kind of like, you know, you're an active participant in your own life. And I feel like that's something that I had to learn where, you know, and I don't have always like the verbiage or I don't have the lingo always, but I was realizing that so many times I was frustrated when I felt like things were happening to me and sometimes that was because I made a poor choice and I watched a show instead of folding the clothes or instead of starting dinner or something. Or, you know, just, I don't know. I just kept finding myself in this situation and being very frustrated because I felt like I was out of control or I had no control. And like, I started realizing that actually you do have choices here and you can make plans and you can have a process and it actually is a good thing for you because I'm one that tends to kind of, you know, I don't love structure. I tend to kind of, because it's the creative part of me, I think. And so I kind of like, I don't need a plan. No, I don't need a way of doing things. But actually what I'm discovering is that I do, because then the creativity, I can be free in that part of it.
Yeah.
And so it's just been really fascinating to just kind of like, okay, no, if I want this, then I have to come back here and like be kind to future Bethany and
Mhm.
do this, this, and this. And then I'm like, this is so nice. Like, this is so great. And it's just been a kind of a learning experience that I'm like, oh, okay. So, starting dinner early and like last night, what has been happening is I keep forgetting that I have a plan for lunch. Okay. I keep forgetting because my kids are home all the time for
Yeah.
virtual school. And I keep forgetting. So I just got a piece of paper out and I wrote down what was for breakfast, what was for lunch, and what was for dinner. And I was like, this is great because I didn't have to like use my brain because my brain is kind of tapped out these days. And it's just there ready to go. And it's just such a nice thing.
It is. It is. And I think that's one of the things as I have just really dove into well-being over the last few years as a field of study, and then also as my work. One of the things that has emerged, that when you talk about language, a lot of times we don't have language. The the emotions are hard to put language to, and there's obviously some science behind that because of how our brains work. But I think that a lot of this kind of stuff is just giving you language, whether it's Strengths Finder or Enneagram, or knowing that there's things that I do enjoy or things that I don't enjoy. All of this just gives you language to help explain a little bit more of who you are and how you are and what you want to do. But the other big thing, the importance of language is one thing, but the other big thing that's come out of this, deeper dive into well-being is the importance of structure and micro steps. And I think that is something that's been really important for me, is that I felt like I'm not a big grand gesture person. I do move a little bit more slowly. And I felt like that may never be honored or valued in our mainstream society, in the workplace, really. Because the workplace is fast and productive. Yeah. And so I was like, where's a place for someone like me who goes a little bit more slowly, still wants to accomplish things, but maybe does it a little bit differently. But anyways, what I've learned through well-being is micro steps, little small practices empower us. They give us back control. And just like you said, with a routine or a plan, at first we can kind of poop, I don't need that. But actually, when you take the guesswork out of that stuff and you have a routine or you have a structure that you just then can mindlessly follow that, it frees up your brain for the creativity, the areas of passion, the flow, the fun work, the stuff that you really want to do, because everything else has kind of been planned for when you can start, routine and structure that helps support what you want to do. So it's incredibly valuable. And often underestimated, the need and the value of it.
For sure. I don't think, if you'd asked me probably, I don't know, even a year and a half, 2 years ago, if I would be writing a book and putting a book together and all of those steps, I would have not believed it for a second. And I think this was the key for me, Kendra. I think what I realized was that, because I think in the past, like not knowing how to do something or not understanding something discounted me from trying it. It like took me out of the running like right away. Like, well, I've never like worked with a printer before, or I've never set up a shop before. I have no idea what I'm doing. Like a couple of years ago, that would have been like, okay, well, this is obviously not the right thing. This is not the right thing to try. This is stupid. And I don't know what's changed completely, but this summer I was just kind of like, I can figure it out. I can learn it. And if I don't know it, that's okay. That just means I'm figuring it out as I go. And that was kind of like something that I kind of had to stop and remember at different points along the way. Like, oh, okay, you're feeling that kind of like rise up in you, that scary, like, oh, this feels icky. I don't like this feeling. It's like, it's okay. you've never been here before. You've never tried this before. It's okay. You're figuring it out. And every step of the way, Kendra, has been pure joy. It's just so cool because what I've said to people have described it is that I'm in way over my head and I'm having the time of my life at the same time. And again, if you had told me that it would feel good to be in way over my head, I would have like Bethany 2, 3, 5 years ago would have thought that sounds awful. Like, no way. I don't want to tread water forever. Like, that sounds terrible. But I'm not treading water. I'm not worn out. Like, I've been given what I've needed to complete each step. And so now I've seen the book in the hands of my designer.
Yay! I'm so happy for you. I'm so proud of you.
It's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy. So, one more question. Where are you needing to lean into permission granted in the midst of working from home, a pandemic, part-time virtual school, like all of those things? Like, where are there some spaces that you're having to lean into permission granted and just kind of as that reminder?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think right away.
Oh, you're frozen a little bit.
Am I still there?
Yep, there you are.
Back? Okay. Two big ones that come up right away. That one, so as a part of my role, I had been studying resilience and, that was perfect timing for the pandemic to hit and to be able to help our people know how to stay and practice resilience throughout this pandemic. And I think permission granted for me in that was the realization that just because you know the building blocks of resilience and what resilience practices are does not mean that they will be practiced perfectly or with ease. Sometimes I think the goal is to get through this. It doesn't mean that it's going to be pretty. So the fact that I'm remembering to exercise or take care of myself or breathe or take some time to myself or forgive myself when I respond out of frustration instead of, my values. Like, it's that permission to know that you're trying, Kendra.
Yes.
Like, keep up, keep showing up and keep trying, and know that even in the trying, it's going to look kind of messy and not pretty, but that doesn't take away from the value of you trying. And I think that that's been a really good thing for me to know is to, yesterday maybe didn't go great, pick myself back up, try again today, so I think that that's been one thing in particular. And then another thing we've talked about, being kind of the peacemaker, being, really other focused at times. And I think a big thing throughout all of this, the last 10 months, is saying no and creating boundaries. And I think I've never really had a problem saying no if I had a good reason, what felt like a good reason in my mind to say no. But in this pandemic, I've said no just because I didn't want to do that. I don't want to join that Zoom call. I shouldn't have that conversation right now. It wouldn't be good for me. And I think that that's been really good. It's just leaning into giving myself permission to draw boundaries that I know will be healthy, and trust that, others can understand that. And, and if they can't, then reach out and want to talk about it, maybe learn more and we can talk about it. I don't know, but that I'm not hurting anyone's feelings or whatever. I think that's been a big one for me too.
Oh, I love that. This comment, oh my gosh, Stephanie, I love this. It's so sweet. I'm hoping that it encourages you on your permission granted journey, Stephanie. So guys, this was just, a taste, just a little morsel, really, of what Kendra put together in the pre-order bonuses. So the pre-order bonuses end at the end of the day on Saturday, this coming Saturday, December 5th. So I'm hoping that some of you will take advantage of these pre-order bonuses, and especially this one that Kendra put together. Again, it's over 20 pages long of fantastic information, tips, tricks, reasons why, like just the kindest, most generous pre-order bonus that I've ever seen in my life. So I was really, really thrilled to be able to bring this to you guys. And I'm sure, Kendra, like both of our hearts we beat for the same things on so many levels. And so we just hope that between the book and this fantastic download that people really step into what they're made for and just have a blast right along the way, just kind of discovering your passion, your purpose, your possibilities, the way that God's made you. And I'm excited. I don't know about you, but I'm excited to see, like, what happens, what happens because somebody reads the book and says, oh gosh, like, what am I about? Or they pick up the download, and what would be really cool is if somebody took a day, like a Saturday, and just gave themselves like a retreat and just kind of said, okay, I'm going to go to a hotel, or I'm going to go to the basement and lock myself in the basement, whatever that looks like these days, and just kind of sits with your download and just kind of says, okay, I'm just going to kind of dive in. I'm going to make a plan. I'm going to, kind of chart out how I want to do some of these things, because you give a lot of ideas of things that people can do, people to talk to, asking other people to kind of speak into your life. And so I think that could be really cool for 2021, because we might need that. We might need that little, pick up and support and encouragement as we begin a new year. Are you there? I think you're frozen. So I don't know if Kendra's coming back, but I mean, she's so cute. Oh, there she is.
Sorry, my internet, I guess.
No worries. So I forget. Did you hear what I was talking about? I was talking about a retreat.
Yeah. And I think, that's something that we mentioned in the PDF is like, this is by no means meant to be something like that you tackle this whole PDF in a day or anything like that. But yeah, to take some time to read through it and see if there's one or two things that really stick out, like, oh man, this would be a good starting point. This is where I want to begin. And how do I want to do that? I think that would be really great. I think taking care of ourselves, not only for ourselves, but for the good of the people we're in relationships with and the people that we want to serve and love, is one of the most responsible things that we can do. And
yes.
It's not selfish. It's one of the most responsible things that we can do to show up well for ourselves and others. And my personal why is to see and celebrate others so that they can be the best version of themselves. And that, to me, is what really motivates and excites me, is thinking of a world where everyone can show up fully themselves, passionate about what they're passionate about, confident in their skills and abilities without feeling like they've got to cower or shelter themselves or play small, but like showing up with their gifts, offering those to others. I think that feeds you and others, and that's a world that I would want to live in. So I hope that the PDF helps a little bit in that journey.
Yeah.
And your book will.
Oh, thanks, friend, sister, friend, both, all. Yeah, I'm hopeful that, even if just one person is encouraged by these small little words, and a seed is planted and there's a harvest, and then there's more to give to others. Like that's our prayer, for both of those, for all of the things, because there's two other pre-order bonuses. There's a pre-order bonus that Lori Young did that is permission granted by the numbers. That's kind of like a primer to the Enneagram.
Awesome.
And then there's also a printable that my fantastic designer designed. And so you can hang that up, in your bathroom, or frame it and put it in your office just as a reminder. It says, I am in pursuit of my passion, purpose, and possibilities. That's what the little printable says. So I'm really excited to be able to share those pre-order bonuses with everybody who orders the book. And I am putting them out myself because my automated stuff did not work. So if you're still waiting on your pre-order bonuses, check your junk mail. Or if you've ordered in the last day or so, I will get this to you ASAP. So again, pre-order bonuses are ending on Saturday. So if you want to get Kendra's fantastic freebie, download, whatever, it's called Discovering Your Passion, Purpose, and Possibility. And one last thing, you said discovering for a reason.
Yeah, yeah. And I even looked it up because I mean I'm decent at English, but I didn't know the word for it. But it's the it's the continuous form of the verb discovering.
Mm.
So it's not just discover, but the continuous form of the verb is the correct, I don't know, grammatical English
I
thingy.
love it.
But discovering the ongoing form, like, and I think that that's really what it is. And honestly, I think that that takes a lot of pressure off.
Yeah.
Is just to know that like it can look different in different seasons, to not feel like you've missed your window.
Ooh.
To know that you keep discovering and keep learning, and that you can find opportunity in any season, I think is really encouraging.
Well, one of my favorite things is learning along with you. So thank you for this rich download and this rich conversation, because I'm sure that people have gotten something just from this conversation and learning from you and your fantastic heart. So thank you, sister. I love you.
Thank you. I love you too. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye.